If you regularly work on your Mazda RX-8 and you take out the airbox over here, you'll know that the two screws that hold your mass airflow sensor in tend to strip out. And when that happens, your mass airflow sensor is loose and there's not much that you can do about it. Now, we've seen all sorts of repairs here, from drywall screws to pieces of tape to zip ties to try and hold this into place. And so we have decided to try and come up with a better solution. All right, so to resolve this problem, what TST has decided to do is to use these heat inserts over here, and we're going to drill these holes bigger and then insert the heat inserts into there. That will allow us to take a regular screw, which we can then pop in there and then screw it into the heat insert. But before we go and drill the holes for the heat insert, we want to make sure that we do a template to ensure that the drill is perfectly square and in the right position. So the first thing that we're going to do is take off the mass airflow sensor and hop onto CAD and draw out this flange. We've made up this little model template over here, and the whole purpose is to make sure we get the alignment of this circle, and this circle correct. Now the intent is that we're going to put this on the mass airflow sensor and then use these little cutouts over here to make sure we've got this circle perfectly aligned, so that we know that these 3 points are correct before we continue with the development of this model. So now that we've got this in CAD, what we did is 3D printed the flange adapter, and as you can see, it seats well into the hole and gives me the position of these two pins over here. So the next part that I've designed is this final fitment jig. And the purpose of this is to use the hole for the mass airflow sensor, which will align on this surface over here, and then position the two drilling holes, which is this one over here and that one over there, absolutely perfect. And the reason that we're doing this is to make sure that when we do the jig that we will use for drilling, we're going to pick up this center over here, and we then know that these two positions are correct for or equivalent to the mass airflow sensor before we drill those holes out. With this fit-up template designed, I have put two 4mm drill bits into the holes, and what I'm going to do is make sure that this fits correctly onto this opening. The reason that this is important is that the hole positions here are absolutely critical. I'm going to use this center point to pick up these 2 points over here. So I now know that I have the right points, and we're good to go ahead and do the final drill template that we're going to need for the drilling. Alright, so this is the template, the drill template that comes in the kit. It fits on perfectly over there, and it holds our drill bit in the correct position to allow us to drill the hole out. Now the next challenge that we have is we don't want to drill this hole too deeply, otherwise you could drill through the plastic. So we need to design a few spacers. Right, so in your kit you're going to have this drill template, this depth setting tool, your spacer, 2 new screws, your 2 nutserts, as well as the drill bit you're going to need to drill out the holes. Now before we actually drill the airbox, what we need to do is to set up the depth that we want the drill to engage on the airbox. So to do that, you take the long spacer, slide that over the back end of the drill bit, take your drilling template over there and screw it onto the drill bit, and finally take the depth tool, which sets the actual depth, and you just screw that on firmly, push it all the way back in until you have all of them lined up like that. You then slide that onto your drill and lock your chuck. You can now remove the depth gauge as well as the template, and our drill is now set to the correct depth to use on the template. Okay, we're now ready to drill these holes. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the drill template, place it nice and firmly on there. You are going to grab your drill, and then we are just going to drill this hole out until the template bottoms, like that, and the same on this side. There we go. So our 2 holes are now drilled out, ready for our nutsert. Now in the kit are these 2 nutserts. All you're going to do is you're going to slide them into the 2 holes, and then we're going to grab our soldering iron. So the reason we're using our soldering iron is because a press will not work to press these in. Now, our soldering iron has a special heat cert tip on here. You can just use a normal pointed one, it'll work just as well, but for us we're going to use that one, and it's a pretty simple process. You push the soldering iron in there and you can just watch those little heat certs slide in, and you simply press them in until they're flush. This one's come back out again, so we'll press it a little more. Right, that one's flush, and you do the same with this one. You just slide them straight in. Okay, and that's it. Your two heat certs are now in. So I'm just going to take a knife and just clean that excess plastic off over there. All right, and there we go. Those two nut certs are now installed and the flash has been removed. So that is a nice clean installation. Just remember to take a look on the inside of your inlet over here, and if there's any little plastic pieces that have gone in, that you have wiped them out and that this is clean. Very important that you keep this side clean. It's after the air filter, so anything in here is going to be sucked into your intake manifold. But there's our solution to replace those two stripped out screws. Right, to do the reinstall, just coat the O-ring with some petroleum jelly. I've used a little bit of red rubber grease. I prefer that to petroleum jelly. Very hard to find that here in the States, but I have a small stash. And then very gently insert it in so that that O-ring pops into the housing. And this one is a bit tight, so I believe it's pinched. It might take a time or two. My O-ring is a little bit worn out over here and should probably be replaced. Alright, so the O-ring is so swollen that there's just no ways we're going to get it back into the hole over there. So what I've done is I've just 3D printed a TPU temporary replacement. It's on the sensor right now. So with that TPU O-ring in there, we can just slide that in. And then we'll install the two screws that come with the kit. Now just a note, these two screws are Torx heads. So you will need a Torx driver, but it's now simply a case of just screwing them in. Right, and that is the TST solution for the stripped out screws for your mass airflow sensor. I really like it. It's nice and clean, and I think that works really, really well. So feel free to take a look at our website. These will be up for sale. All right, and so there's our mass airflow sensor with the two new screws installed. The TST kit, I think, is a really good way of doing this, and I really like the outcome that we have over here.